I would like to welcome you to this afternoon's performance. My name is Dale Golden, and I'm the composer of the ballet you're about to see. I'd like to take this opportunity to share a few thoughts in addition to what's in your program notes. First, I must thank and acknowledge my doctoral committee at the University of Louisville, who I believe are here today, Dr. Annette Allen from the Division of Humanities and chair of my committee, Dr. Mark Blum of the Department of History, Dr. Jean Christensen, chair of the Music History Department in the School of Music, and Dr. Dario Covi, professor emeritus of art history. I have to thank Dr. Covi for the idea for this ballet and his wife Madeline for approaching me with the idea and having faith that I would be able to make it a reality. I've asked Dr. Covi to say a few words about how he came to the idea of a ballet on this particular subject. Dr. Covi?
If I stammer or stutter, it's because I'm not used to having music composed for me. And I'm absolutely overwhelmed by the idea that Dale composed this music just on the little notice about some game we could play maybe in ballet. So I want to thank him and tell him I'm really honored by what he has done. And thank my wife, Madeline, who has been the the engineer and motivator and whatever else it takes to move me. She would have got me here on hands and knees if there's no way of walking here. Anyway, I just want to thank all of you for coming. I feel really honored by it. And I know I've heard the music. I know you're going to enjoy that. And I'm looking forward to the ballet. Dale mentioned why I got the idea. I was teaching a graduate course on Rodin several years ago with Dr. Jay Kloner of the University of Louisville. And in talking about or looking at and discussing the composition of Calais' Burghers of Calais, of Rodin's Burghers of Calais, it suddenly came to me that they really were not just processing out of a city to go somewhere else, but they were moving in a kind of slightly curving manner, almost paired in a few instances, but others separated, so it was a kind of straggling group of people. And of course there was a good reason for that, since they were going away, possibly never to come back again, to give their lives up in order to save their city of Calais. But I was also prompted by something else, and that is that Rodin made drawings of dancers, several drawings of dancers, before he had any notion that he was going to do the Burghers of Calais. And he once made a sketch for an etching, of which the title is La Ronda. He was primarily a sculptor, and I think that etching is the only one he ever made. But the preparatory drawing for it is a kind of dance that goes around in a slightly circular way. And I think the dance that he made for that drawing actually inspired him on the positions and arrangement of the bronze figures for his Burghers of Calais. It occurred to me that these Burghers of Calais, with their actions, could be maybe lend themselves to a ballet kind of performance. But apart from that, in addition, Rodin almost went out of his way to make drawings of dancers. He was much intrigued by a troupe of Cambodian dancers who came to Paris, and this was again years before the commission of the Burghers of Calais, which occurred in 1886. He was much taken by these dancers from Cambodia, and when they left Paris to go back, to go away from Europe, he followed them all the way to Marseille in order to keep as close to them as possible. In addition to that, we know that he had Isadora Duncan do a dance for him at a garden party, and one of his sculptures is also a sculpture of the famous Russian ballet dancer Nijinsky, quite a handsome one in a pose on one foot doing a ballet performance. One more thing I might mention is that in his famous monumental sculpture of the Gates of Hell. That yielded also some independent subjects that he developed then as single figures or group figures in some cases. And there are a couple of those, at least two, if to my recollection, in which the positions of those two figures lend themselves to like a pas de deux. And I thought, again, this seems to me dance at work in Rodin's mind. So that's the combination of factors that led me to think of a possible ballet for the Burghers of Calais. Well, we'll see how it works out, and I'm just thrilled to be here, and thank you very much for coming to see this performance, and I want to thank all the principals that were involved. I even gained a flower out of this. First time I've ever had one on my lapel, I think, as far as I can remember. Anyway, thank you very much.
Over the centuries, there have been many works of art inspired by the story of the Burghers of Calais: plays, operas, ballets, paintings, tapestries, poetry, and sculpture. Of all these works, the Rodin sculpture of which Dr. Covi spoke and which is reproduced in your program is by far the most famous. I won't retell the story of the Burghers. I assume you've read your program notes by now. I would, however, like to read a poem by the American poet Richard Howard that is apropos to this event. As you may know, there are multiple castings of the Rodin sculpture located in various cities around the world: Calais, Paris, London, New York, and Washington, among others. One such copy is in the Norton Simon Museum in Pasadena, California, and it inspired this poem written in the 1980s. The poet, who has frequently found inspiration in the lives or works of famous artists and composers, sees the sculpture as a metaphor for all people, all of us, who head into life not knowing what the future holds. The Burghers thought they were headed for their doom when they left Calais to present themselves before the English king, but instead found unexpected mercy and redemption. What knowledge about life, about our future, is hidden from us? All we can do is line up like the Burghers and keep moving forward. The poem is Lining Up by Richard Howard. Pasadena, the museum vestibule. Better stay where we are. Here at least we have, however odd, what passes for a roof over our heads. And even if the walls are nothing more than glass, they will be nothing less. How else take in so clearly these citizens coming upon us in radiant raiment, the motley of Southern California? Where else but in Eden could we find our freedom only by losing it? Such nakedness and such clothes, leather treated to be tractable as silk, and velvet supplanted by aniline facsimile. Shades of medieval, shades louder than the flaunts of Florence. Our neighbors add themselves to the straggling file we stand in, party-colored lives, clustered, strung out, singular, alone. These Burghers of LA, some eager to sample what is promised them, others uncertain why they have come, not turning back, but turning aside, as if reluctant to face engagements they suspect are lying in wait for them up ahead, although disinclined to loiter long over an obstacle in their path, avoided and already behind them. The Burghers of Calais, such more than life-size others, looming monochrome and lame, naked bronze which has gained a life of its own, green and grisly, but a life of sorts by merely being outside. We are safe here. You feel safe, don't you? For all the sudden menace of a sky variable to the point where no one evidently knows how to be prepared for what is in store. Well, no one alive. They know, the six made over to their ruin by Rodin, who 100 years back, before there was a museum in Pasadena, found them waiting for him in the chronicles of his fellow snob and countryman, Froissart, recorded without favor or much fear 500 years before there was a Pasadena, men who brought themselves to break the siege, stripped, barefoot, ready for the hangman. 1. Jean d'Are, offering the keys which drag his muscles down to string, ecstatic as he moves, Calais saved, to a death an hour away. Andrew Dandru, encircling his despair within both arms, as if the body were the pain it knows will come. Jacques de Vizon, striding, neck outstretched, to let his eyes see how it will come before the lean flesh can learn. His brother Pierre, beckoning, to what? Under his crooked elbow, he looks back to find the angry stars knotted into new constellations. Eustache de Saint-Pierre, wearing the rope as though it might prevent him from falling before he falls for good and God. Huge hands already hanging open, helpless, curled to find comfort in their own unreadiness. And to complete the invisible cube, sealing them together, Jean Define, spreading his arms to let rags that once must have been finery fall open to manifest a nakedness fiercely young again. Yes, they know what is in store. 6 men shambling to the English camp, where the English queen will save them all, though they do not yet know about that. And maybe they are with us, always with us, lining up. Maybe we deserve a share of what they know and don't know. Take any 6. The tall man, for instance, in tight jeans and a ginger turtleneck, the one cupping his hands in order to look straight into the museum. Is he discovering that to be bewitched is not to be saved? Does the black girl, the one behind him in unforgivable and unforgiving stretch pants, know we live as ruins among ruins, rendered lovely by staring at ourselves in the glass? One man, encased in plastic, has turned around to face the statues, buttoning his coat against the wind. Does he guess what he appears to know? Where all is bad, it must be good to bless the worst. 4 and 5. And the 2 who move so much like ourselves, do they know what we know? That the great pleasure in life is doing what people say you cannot do. At the end comes a fat woman with a tattoo on her left wrist. I hear her sighing, God, you have appointed me from the first day to fall at the feet of the living and to stand at the head of the dying. Do they come like this to their reprieve? Will there be at the end a forgiveness ready? Rodin himself could not show. How can I tell these 6 the good news? You have been chosen. You will be spared. I am standing first in line. Cats and dogs out there any minute, and in here, now and forever, death of a kind, as if a man needed a diamond and was given the moon. Desire is a relic here. Venus becomes a document. Or to put it still another way, inches of Vermeer can mortify massacres by Delacroix and acres of subsequent carnage. So that even before we get in, futility bears down on fatigue in irresponsible foyers, where a man can know everything but nothing else. The omnivorous package waits, and our riches blind us to our poverty. Bundle up against the weather and wait your turn. We are standing where the burial places of our memory gives up their dead. Museum open Sunday until 5, admission free.